than write a bunch of textbook pages about critical thinking, I thought we would do an exercise that is not nearly as daunting as it may seem. I'm going to walk you through the process, and I'm going to show you two examples from two sort of sides of the spectrum. These days, and in days gone by, trying to discern misinformation from malinformation from reality is a real challenge. And so we're going to do an exercise where you pick one thing that causes you to raise an eyebrow. You hear something in the news, you hear something on social media, or you see something written on social media or posted somewhere or in the news or on a news broadcast or on the YouTube channel somewhere. Something you hear makes you think, really? And that's what this little assignment is about. So let's go through this together. The little assignment is going to include links to the information you studied, and it's going to include a works cited. There are only 3 components to this. First, you're going to have an image that represents the topic that you're interested in. Then you're going to start with what you heard, read, or saw that gave you pause, that made you think, really? And that's this fact on whatever date, and I don't care when it is. I don't care if it was today. I don't care if it was in 1990. I don't care when it was. If it's interesting to you, it's interesting to me. If it gave you pause then, it's valid and interesting to me. So on whatever date, whatever person you found claimed that, and you're going to quote what that person said, wrote, or posted. You'll include a link there so I can simply click the link and see what you're talking about. The second thing is, what did you study when you decided to research whether or not that statement was factual? And you'll include those links. It's just going to be 1, 2, 3 with the links. I'm going to show you in the example coming up, so stay with me. And then the third thing is, your challenge with the truth of the original statement is therefore, and this you will write in formal language where you think about the thing that you heard, read, saw, or heard, and the process you went through to check that out, and the questions that left you with. You don't have to make a determination that the person was lying. You can make a determination that either your research showed their statement to be factual, or that your research showed their statement to be full of holes and asking more questions than it answers. So I'm going to show you 2 examples. One is going to be a little bit complicated, and the other one pretty simple and straightforward. But the important thing is that you honor your intelligence. You honor your place in this world. What interests you? What do you hear that makes you sound challenged? What? Are you sure? So let's look at the one that I have as the first example. I have titled my little project, "Are These the Ravings of a Lunatic?" And I include a picture. No cartoons, no words, no logos, just an image. Now let's go through the process of filling in these 3 requirements. As always, I go to easybib.com and I go to my citation lists and I create a new citation for this essay. When I click on this, all of my research will go into that particular folder, so I don't have to keep track of the information that I study. I happen to be looking at this newspaper article from June of 2023, and I see that it's referenced RFK Jr. I remember him from many years ago as the son of an assassinated leader who was the spokesperson for my generation. Robert Kennedy Jr. went on for a career that was built on the name of his family. And I've always found his positions on things to be fairly interesting and a little bit odd. So I'm looking at this and I come down and I am reminded of what he said about vaccines and autism. For whatever reason, that has struck my interest because I remember in 2005 when he tried to make a name for himself by writing this paper and having it published in Rolling Stone. At that time, Rolling Stone was like, man, if it's cool, it's in Rolling Stone. Oh, to have my picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. And so I remember at the time thinking, wow, that must be something. So I looked into it. His theory that he postulates is that vaccines contain mercury and that mercury causes autism. So I'm going to take what it is that he said and I'm going to put it into my little paper. I'll be right back. Copied this. Okay. I pasted that in here. I just went up to the URL on that web page and I copied that. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a link. Number one. Now for number two. This seemed like a dramatic claim. And so I researched, and these are the things that I'm going to go research, and I'm going to add the links in. So let's go together. Original thing. Remember what we just copied and pasted. Now I'm going to take a look at this Rolling Stone article. It doesn't take me very long to copy part of this and paste it into a Google search and ask for the PDF. That's always good for me when I do that, when I research, if I go the PDF of the article. So I'm not going to get a bunch of other links. I'm going to actually get that PDF. Let's look at it. We'll look at that in a second. First things first, we go up here, we copy this, we go over to EasyBib, created a citation for the original article that we were referring to in the whole paper. So we're going to create the citation, right? And we're going to paste that in and see if this can possibly find it. Find it that way, but when I copied the URL that's actually in the article, that works. So I'm going to cite that here. That it filled in all of these blanks, so I don't need to fill in anything else. I can just go down here and complete the citation. And now that shows up on my list. Now let's take a look at this fabulous article. I'm going to read this entire long article. That's not the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to see where Robert Kennedy Jr. found the information, the facts upon which he bases this claim that vaccines cause autism. So this little note says the article by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. documented. Okay, so you know how I make you document everything. There's a works cited, there's a where did you find that information for everything. So I expect there to be a lot of documentation in this article that Robert F. Kennedy wrote. I'm going to expect there to be all kinds of links to government studies, to scientific studies, right? Because how is he going to come up with this theory if he doesn't have facts? So I'm just going to look through here and I'm going to see if there's anything. See, is he's quoting scientists. When I studied further, this Dr. Wheel and this other Dr. Johnston, they weren't talking about autism and they weren't talking about mercury poisoning. And if I look at these quotes from them, they're very vague. Are statistically significant. What statistically? Results of what? There's no study that I can see a link to that I can go and find. So that gives me pause again. And I'm going to put that down in my little conclusion statement of number 3. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back over to my little Word document and over here in my challenge section, so I don't forget where it is, I'm going to write down, I'm just going to paste it, right? And I'm going to make a note to myself because when I come back to this later on, I won't remember what I was talking about. So I'm going to write my little note. Just wrote myself a little note. Now I'm going to go back over to that article. This claim about a June 2000 group of top government scientists. He said there would be no making of photocopies of documents, no taking papers when they with them when they left. Okay, so how did he know about this? If this was a clandestine meeting in 2000 and private invitations were sent to 52 attendees, he not among them, how would he know this took place? I don't see any documentation here. Do you? I mean, am I missing anything? Do you see anything? I've looked these people up. There are none of these people. So there's no proof that there's not a picture, there's not anything that proves that this particular thing took place. So I'm just going to put the first part of that and just add that because there's just no proof of it. I see what he's saying, but I don't see one link to proof. So I'm going to put that over in my little area 3 too. I added that. Now I know it's all a jobbled up mess right now, and that's fine. I just want to make sure I get my facts in my document, and I'm going to come back and edit it a little bit later. So I don't have much left to do on this. So let's go back over here to that article that Kennedy. What I'm going to do is go down here and look at the notes, see where the whole entire article was retracted from Rolling Stone, and that there were a number of flaws in that story. I don't need to add anything more, but I need to make sure that the link is there, that the reader can easily go to this link and find this. So let's do that real quick, and then we're going to leave this article and we're going to go to the next thing, which is the person that Kennedy said corroborates his story. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going back over to my little Word document, his original article. Simply paste that there. And I need to make sure later on that these links work, just to be sure that I can get to wherever it says that I'm going. Okay. So before we submit this, we're going to make sure that the links all work. And if they don't, then we find a way for the link to work, or we download the article and attach it to the assignment. So those are the ways there. Now, in this article, he says that there was a member of Congress who thought he was on the right track. Let's go find that little congressman. I'm putting this into EasyBib. This congressional record was very easy to find because he says it in this little article. And having read that in the little article, I was able to go through and easily just copy and paste into Google, and it found the article, and there it is. So I simply cite that, very simple to do, and I don't need any of the rest of it. I can, because you've got the link to get to the congressional record, complete the citation. So there we go. And we're going to ignore whatever it wants because a congressional record is a congressional record. And we have the way to find that record. So all I'm going to do for this record is going to take me 2 minutes. All I want to find out is one thing. Let's look together. See if you can tell me what you think the one thing I'm going to look for in this congressional record is. I'm looking for one single fact. Nothing is said in this thing. He says that Kennedy carefully documented his study. Have we found one single piece of documentation? Right? We have a secret study and research studies. Which research studies? I didn't see one. Did you? I don't see the name of one here. I don't see anything written by anybody. This is Kennedy's claim, but I don't see a single piece of evidence. And that's all I need to know from this. Of course, I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to copy that URL, go back to my little document, add that into the things that I researched. Be right back. This in number 2, I've already added it to Works Cited. I have a link which I will test later to make sure that it goes to that particular page. And then I added down here at the bottom, this congressional record doesn't have any facts in it at all. Finally, the reference to the whole thing that set the entire thing in motion is this global research website that claimed that Kennedy's carefully documented 2005 article. I'm just going to copy that. And remember, I've got to add this one to my works cited, this global research page. That's going to be the last of my things. So I'll be right back. Over here, I have just 3 citations. That's all I need to prove that there's fallacy in that logic. That's all I needed to do to prove that what Kennedy said is not necessarily true. There's no facts to substantiate it. So I'm all set. I'm all done with this. So I'm export, and I have a choice. I can export this as a Microsoft Word, or I can export it as Google Docs, whichever one you choose. I'm going to go ahead and do Word because I know it won't mess up the margins if I do, but you do it any way you want. Word, you can see that it opened up down here in this little tray. All done, so I enable editing. Looks good. Make sure everything's correct. Make sure there are no live URLs in the works cited. There are in the little project, but none here. So I'm going to copy this, going back over to my little project, and at the very bottom, I'm going to go ahead and paste my works cited. Space between there. Now, first things first, before I even edit anything, which I'm going to have to do, obviously, first things first is I'm going to change everything, select all. I'm changing everything to Times New Roman 12 font. Okay? Now, all I have to do is go in and tidy up my conclusions, right? My challenge with the truth is that no factual proof in the June 2000, no factual proof here in this quote, no specific studies, no evidence. These were inconclusive. I did not want to do. So my last statement is, my research has proved that Kennedy's claim was not supported by substantial information and therefore is highly questionable. And that's it. Now I'm going to save this as a PDF. First, I'm going to save it as a Word document for myself, but then I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to save it as a PDF. This video will show an example that's a little bit more fun and maybe not quite as complicated, although this turned out to be pretty simple. Does he have facts to prove what he said or not? And we proved that pretty quickly. So remember that these are the directions, 1, 2, and 3, and then we want to have our works cited that's properly formatted. Here's the example. Number 1, I quote him, and I have a little link where the reader can go to the link, and there's that little hyperlink. Then number 2, this seemed like a dramatic claim, so I researched the news article, his original article, the congressional record that he claims supports him, and the initial entity, Global Research, that started the whole thing going. Now, if I wanted to go crazy on it, I would find out who Global Research is and why they brought this back up again, even though it was debunked, it was taken down. Rolling Stone defied any attachment to it at all. And then number 3, my challenge with the truth is that there's no factual proof. And I show the examples of no factual truth. I conclude with one statement in my own words. Then I have my works cited. It's all pretty. And that's it. So now tune into the next video, which will show you a more simple, streamlined example. But this should be fun. And I think it's going to be challenging, and it's not nearly, as you can see, not nearly as challenging as it might seem.